Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Because it's time to write now.
All right, everyone. So it's me and Calvin for the moment. Coffin will be on in a little bit. So I'm actually going to get us started with a writing sprint here in just a moment, as soon as the computer wants to actually like me. Hey, Lillian.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Calvin.
All right, so we're going to do a 45-minute writing sprint, and we will be chatting afterwards.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool.
And there we go. right, and that is that. But I think, well, I know I got some writing done. I hope everyone else did as well. And yes, Susan, the playlist, some of the songs were given the Celtic prompt, so.
All right. Looks like we were able to get writing done. Oh, how'd that go for you guys?
I got some decent work done.
Let's see. I'm hearing myself. I'm hearing like an echo in mind.
You sound like the voice of God.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I don't know why I feel like. Oh man. I know you guys were able to start on some writing. How about the rest of you guys? Any success or luck on your end?
A little on mine, but got a little busy, so I had to stop for a little bit.
Hmm. What about you, Lillian? Were you able to make any progress?
Yeah. I'm almost done with my entries for the contest.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's exciting.
I'm only like I'm only 13 words over the limit, so
Man, looks like you're coming in at the home stretch there.
yeah.
Are you pretty happy with how the story's turning out so far?
Yeah, I thought I was okay with the ending, and then
Mm.
I added a little bit more, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's even better. So that's good. I'm just actually trying to think about cover art, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I really don't know what I would do
Mm.
for the art.
Well, that's awesome that
Yeah,
you're making some progress. And I know the cover art is an interesting one. Is
right.
I remember back in when we were dealing with Freaky Friday, we didn't deal with cover art until after the fact, and then we started asking people for it closer. And then we realized that it just created this whole extra step, this whole extra part of the process. So I was like, okay, this time around, we're just going to make cover art part of the submission process, and then that way the writers, you get to choose your own thing. So that way there's no like waiting after the fact.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I know like one of the questions. I remember one of the questions somebody asked me was like, okay, well, we they don't want the submission name, or we don't want the submission name on the cover itself for the judges, because we're doing a blind judging experience. But if you create cover art and the submission name is on it, then how do you do the cover art?
Well, I mean, you can have the title of the
Hmm.
story, but
Yeah, I think I just recommended to. I'm pretty sure I include in the frequently asked questions. It just include two versions. So if like your cover art does have your author name on it, which sometimes they do sometimes, provide one without the author name and one with.
yeah, I just don't know how to do cover art, and I don't know what scene in the story I would want to put in.
This is actually something really interesting. I know it's been a while since we've really talked about cover art. I would love to pose this to the community. How do you decide what your cover is going to look like?
Yeah.
How do you guys and I whether it's for Faded Fantasy or just a story in general, like how do you know what feels right for you for stories you've been working on? I'd
Well,
love to
how
hear
did
a comment.
how did you do the art for like Freaky Friday and like you have the art for this contest and the reading club, all of that. How do you get your art done? Yeah, I wonder.
Let's say
But
because I know I know a number of us have I know like Soul and Calvin, you guys both have published stuff out. So it's like how do you guys decide what was going to be the right cover for you?
For Burning Ember, I didn't really go like that one. Actually, wasn't that difficult for me because pirates. I wanted the first one to actually kind of reflect that. So the cover is a pirate ship. The second one was actually more difficult because I didn't want to do another pirate ship, but I needed to do something. So I ended up with a sword surrounded by ivy, which kind of goes with the antagonist. And I'm still working on the third one, but I kind of have an idea. It's just trying to find the right line art for that.
Are you doing it yourself?
Yes, I
Oh,
cannot afford a professional artist,
I
and I
know,
know how to do it
right?
on my own, so why not get the practice?
That sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
and and I think that's always like the thing that we have to balance, right? For like all the investments that goes in the book process, right? What can we afford for a process that can be expensive at times? So I think
I
it's
spent $30 for my first cover, and I apologize to whoever made it, but it sucked. Yeah, I spent way too little on that.
oh my
Oh,
goodness. Lynn put up something really interesting here. Lynn said covers, lots and lots of market research.
Yes.
I completely agree. I know I can go into the whole market research part of it, but Calvin, I'd love to hear from you first. How did you decide on your cover design?
For the one book I wrote, for the first book I published, it was a dragon book, so I knew I needed a dragon on the cover.
Well, we know that putting a dragon on it solves any problem.
For the second book, for the one that's coming out next month, almost this month now,
I
um,
love that one.
yeah,
Looks good.
my cousin is a graphic artist, so she
hmm
offered to do the covers,
hmm
and she was able to. She asked me if I wanted a mech or a satellite, and I asked
hmm
her what she was able to do, and she's like, a satellite would be okay, and I'm like, well, why don't we do a satellite? Since the satellite was like the inciting incident in the book, because that's like, hey, they went out to go fix. It was just supposed to go out and fix the satellite. Now we got in a war.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Trying to pull like a scene, a moment from the book.
Yeah,
Is that pretty popular for sci-fi? Does sci-fi like big on like pulling like, all right, I'm gonna use a moment to pull the
yeah,
reader?
yeah, kind of.
Seems
Um,
like
like Fall of Reach for the Halo book for the original cover showed the Battle of
Oh,
Reach.
actually, I've seen that cover before. I remember what you're saying because it's literally, isn't it like the fall when it has like the ships going through the air and it shows like the last stand, like
Kind of, yeah, yeah,
mm-hmm.
which is really good. I mean, sci-fi tends to pull scenes from the book and try to recapture it in real life as much as you're freaking able to.
with I know with fantasy, I know fantasy sometimes there's scenes, but fantasy tends to play more on the characters. It's either on like a magical effect or like it's like a focus on the character on a character moment, whether or not it's a scene or not. But fantasy plays like a huge focus on characters if it is a scene, if it is depicting a scene and it's not just some like generic um like non-scene of it. But I know fantasy does that a lot. Um I know for my cover for Scarecrow, I ended up, I want to say that I spent about probably 400. I think I spent 400 on the cover.
That sounds about right.
It's really
Yeah,
cool. Like the cover's so cool. I wish I could show everybody. It's getting closer, getting closer. So once it's ready, I'll do an official book cover reveal. But I'm pretty happy, and it looks like a kind of similar cost to Lynn. You said current covers, you're doing about 350 each. So it's kind of in that price range.
yeah,
hmm And I
Well,
was like,
like,
I know I can do like Photoshop, and I have some experience over time with like putting images together. But for a cover design, I didn't think that I had enough experience to do a cover.
but
Um,
also,
yeah.
what about a short story? That's different than a book.
It is, and I mean, I think that's a whole nother thing. Because I think if you're doing a short story, then the question to ask Lynn is like, where's the short story being put out? Are you still publishing the short story? Like, okay, they're still going to go publish through Amazon or through wherever. Um, because then I'd be asking myself like, okay, well, who's the reader going to be, and then how am I going to show it to people? Because I think a lot of times we think that the book cover is a is something that we're pulling from the book to just represent what the story is, but a book cover is a marketing tool.
yeah. I was
And I
gonna
think
say,
a lot of
yeah,
writers always forget that. a book cover is not supposed to be representative of the book. It is a marketing tool to get somebody to open the book.
Well, if you think about it, if someone looks at your cover and thinks they didn't put a lot of time or effort into it, how much time or effort could they have put into the book?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Whether or not it's a good book or not, right? It's like there's that saying, right? Don't judge a book by its cover.
Oh, no, we judge books by the cover.
We
No.
absolutely do. We absolutely do. I was like,
Actually,
I know I'll like walk into a bookstore and start looking at all like the covers and the books. I was like, yeah, that book looks like it sucks. That cover kind of sucks. And then I'll go to another, and it could be a great book, but what do I know?
what's funny is for anyone who's watched Phineas and Ferb, the mother
Hmm.
was trying to get Candace to pick books, and
Hmm.
she's like, "Thank you for just judging these books by their covers." And she's like, "Well, why did you pick these books?" And she had this look like, "Yeah, I picked them by their covers."
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Hmm. But
Well,
I mean, what were you gonna say, Calvin?
I was just gonna say, well, Kaufman's right. A cover is really an advertisement to the book. It's a call
Hmm.
or a call to action for the book to be like, "Hey, pick me, pick me, pick me."
Hmm.
That's why
Exactly.
that's why I laugh at a lot of these covers of these books on Amazon that don't have a cover. Period. It's just a story title, and it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's not going to catch anyone's eye probably.
Hmm.
Or if it does, it's like you got to work 10 times as hard on like the summary or the blurb or anything like that to try and get someone's attention.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this kind of goes a little in line with what Lynn and Adrian said. I know Adrian was like, I sketched my idea and hired an artist to do it better. Went through 5 candidates before finding the right match. And I think it's just the process of knowing, like, okay, what style do you want for your cover and how is it going to pull people in? Um, I know for Scarecrow, I did it a little backwards. I had an image in my mind that I always wanted to do. It's not fully representative of a scene in the book, but I think it captures the vibe of the world. I had the scene, I had the image in mind, and then I did the market research for fantasy genre trends and applied details to the type of scene that I wanted. Once I had the scene in mind and I had a good visualization, then I searched for artists who could capture the type of scene I wanted to create based on the. So I kind of like went about it backwards. And then once I found the art style, I was like, okay, this is the art, and they're awesome. It's yeah, I'm really happy with it. But I mean, we'll see whenever the book launches, right? As much as I love the book cover, that doesn't matter. All that matters is whether or not people are actually going to pick up the book.
Yeah, but you have to like your own cover to a
You're right.
certain
You're right. You're
point.
right. You're right. You're right. But I'm
So,
biased though. We are all biased. We're gonna love our own stuff that we put out. I was like, yeah, of course it's a great cover.
You'd be
like,
surprised. I
No,
actually met somebody once that they couldn't stand their cover at all,
really?
but apparently it actually caught people's eye to at least look at their book. So it's just like, so you just kind of accepted it then, I
Uh
guess.
huh. Yeah, Lynn, that's a really good comment. Lynn said the cover is a promise to the reader that they know what sort of book they're picking up. And that's a lot of time why trends are so popular, because trends generally tend to be specific to genres a lot of the time. So readers
yeah.
know certain trends to look for.
Like, I know for my novel, it involves time travel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've looked at a lot of time travel fiction covers
Mm-hmm.
involve clocks of some kind.
Yeah, I
So
could actually.
I now have an idea of what kind of cover I want for
Mm-hmm.
my novel. But like I was thinking about the short story and the contest, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, is that art? You know, if we're doing our own covers, they'll each be unique pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that's going to tie them together as an anthology, or like is that, or is it the point of an anthology to
Mm-hmm.
have different cover art for each story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's interesting because I know you had mentioned short stories as well. Um, I think an anthology is a little different, right? Because the covers of each of the stories aren't necessarily going to be shown to the reader. The reader's only seeing the cover of the anthology.
Right.
And then, I mean, I guess for short stories, it depends. Like, where would you guys post your short stories up? Like, for some people, short stories could be fan fiction on like, so like if it was on like AO3 or like
Yeah.
different websites, and that's kind of different, right? Uh,
AO3 doesn't really have a spot for covers
they
though. If
have-
you do a cover, it's you put a link to like your Tumblr or something. And honestly, that's kind of what I've been trying to do because I'm trying to create a cover for one of them,
Mhm,
and that's what I'm going to have to do because there's no place to upload a cover on AO3, which I kind of
mhm,
admit I kind of wish they would do because
mhm,
I feel like that'd make it a little more interesting.
Yeah.
It might make things a little more noticeable, but
mhm,
I think people are doing that more on fanfiction.net,
mhm.
but honestly, I like AO3 a lot better.
Mm.
So
fanfiction.net is kind of dying at this point.
I know,
All the
but
freaking scammers.
Oh, it
What-
is. Every other day, I'm getting someone like, "Oh, I love your work. You need some pictures." I'm like, no, I don't need any pictures.
Read the story.
Like, hey, oh yeah, somebody favorited my story. Oh no, they just want to do this.
Pretty much.
What are do you guys know other ways to put like short stories or to put short fiction to short stories out there into the world, short of publishing?
Places like Ream.
Yeah, Ream's
Yeah.
actually that. Do places like Ream, do they let you put like cover art up?
Yes.
They do. I'm not super familiar with the platforms as
Ream
much.
Ream is basically an offshoot of Patreon, but instead of being where Patreon is geared towards content creators like video makers, musicians, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
Ream is actually story focused. It is
Yeah,
writer
that I
focused.
do know. Mm-hmm.
But it literally looks like someone took the Patreon platform, copied it, and said, "Okay, now I'm going to do this."
Can I copy this and make this for writers?
Pretty
Or
much.
for
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, just
story of the world, right? Take an idea that works well and then apply it to your own industry. But learning experience here, though, learning experience. If you're ever stuck, and this is kind of unrelated, but if you're ever feeling stuck in your storytelling or whatever you're dealing with, and you need ideas, go to a different industry as writers, go to a different genre, see something that genre is doing well. Maybe it's trending, maybe it's popular, and then ask yourself, is there a way that I can subvert this idea or do this differently and then take it back to my own genre and apply it? There's like definitely there's like a whole like research strategy towards taking things from that have been done well because it's been proven that's done well. Then you just have to ask how can I make it like how can I make it work for what I'm trying to do? And then that's because then you're doing something new and different, and sometimes that can be a way that people break out. I mean, things only become trending and popular because they have to start somewhere.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I gotta get going. So, because I'm actually running Jennifer's group tonight, so I will talk to you later.
Okay. All right. Have fun. We'll
See
catch you
you.
later.
I'll try. See you later.
Yeah. So I'm kind of on ideas, and I'm like thinking through what are things that we do when we're feeling stuck for ideas. Do you usually just go for? Do you have like a list of ideas? Do either you guys when you're trying to like think of new story things to write?
I always have story ideas
Mm-hmm.
popping up, so I saw a video a few years ago by
Mm-hmm.
this other author, and she has a whole filing system for her ideas. She just gets an idea, pops it in the file, and just leaves whatever notes she has for it, and
Mm,
then she can go back to it whenever. So I'm trying to do that
it's not a bad
also.
idea. I mean, it's kind of interesting for having a file system for a bunch of different ideas. Hmm. I feel like I
I
just
have
follow
way
what
too
I'm
many.
inspired by. Oh, really? You just have like Soul's list of like the next 30 stories I'm gonna write.
Pretty much, honestly, that's actually probably an accurate number at this point. I mean, I honestly have. I think I checked it. I think I have 6 different fan fictions alone right
Mhm.
now that are
Mhm.
technically considered active,
Okay.
and people are just waiting for me to finish them. Hey,
Mhm.
buddy.
Aw.
Um, but like some of them I kind of have like on the back burner because like I have more important ones. Like I have the rewrite that I'm doing. I have the one for the One Piece Bingo that I've been trying to write.
Mhm.
I've got a few others that it's like I need to finish them. Like I need to finish one of my Zoan stories that people have been kind of waiting for, and then I need to finish my alternate universe. And then like for my
Mhm.
original novels, I think I've got at least 7 on the back burner that like I want
Mhm.
to do, but most of them I kind of have put back because right now I'm just kind of focused on Pirates to Haven's Edge.
Mhm.
I have a new one that I'm working on, but that one I'm focusing on because my other writers group. But I think
Mhm.
without them, I'm not sure I'd actually have that one like quite where it's at.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. And so, for anybody who's just hopping into the stream right now, we're kind of just talking about where do you find new ideas from when you're when you like want to work on other projects, or do you save them, or do you start working on them immediately? And I'm sure everybody has a different process. Um, like for me, I don't really save up ideas for other stories. I feel like if I feel like I have like, of course, maybe things floating around in the back of my head, but I feel like when there's one that I feel strongly enough about, then I start working on it. And because I kind of have to focus all my like energy on it, I'm like all in on that story until sink or swim, till the bitter end of whatever the story is, and then I just go through that creative circle.
Oh, I'm jealous that you can actually stick with one story and not jump to another.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't I in some of my earlier days, there were definitely periods in my life where I would get burnt out. My thing wasn't jumping from story to story. Mine was not finishing stories. Then I would start something else, then not come back to it. And that used to be a problem that I dealt with a lot. So I've just learned to figure out how to focus in on finishing a project. And then even if I don't get it to the stage that I want it to, I'm able to shelf it, and then be all right with leaving it like that. So I don't feel like I have all these unopened stories I'll never finish. So, but I'm pretty happy with how consistent I've been with Scarecrow, and like real talk, being able to create it with a writing community has been such a huge win. I feel like I almost add my own like motivation and excitement by just by
Yeah, something like that is definitely going to help you keep up with a single idea.
yeah. If anybody's ever struggling with writing, the thing I recommend is start doing some type of a live stream or consistent thing where you're like forced to do the thing. And I mean
That's
that's
actually
part
not a
of
bad
why
idea because
that's partially why I
since I do
started.
my
Hmm.
Saturday nights, I've
Hmm.
actually kind of found myself just wanting to work on one project right now
Hmm.
because I stream it over Discord like you
Hmm.
do yours over the week,
Hmm.
and it's like I feel like if I jump around each week, it's if anybody actually like comes in and reads it,
Hmm.
they're gonna get confused and not realize I'm on a different project each week. So it's like right now I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna focus on the rewrite, and
Hmm.
then when that's done, which I'm about halfway through the original story now,
Hmm.
then I'll move on to the next thing.
You know, I really like that. By the way, so I need to we need to figure out what need to give your like Saturday night writing sesh some type of name.
I've been calling it right chat.
Right. I love that. I love that. That's great.
It's true.
I love that. Lillian, I remember I think I saw you asking in the Discord for some type of like weekly writing writing thing for our Discord members. And Soul does
Yeah,
that weekly writers group in the Discord Saturday nights
Yep.
now.
yeah. I
Yeah, I
know.
do that on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Although I might change it because it does seem to conflict with when Kaufman does the book club thing. Or I guess not
Yeah,
Kaufman, but Courtney. Because sometimes you guys go kind of late and like I've already been on an hour by the time somebody comes in.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean I think it just depends on the weekend.
I think I
Yeah.
was like more like talking like midweek type
The
I
right
don't.
chat is a little bit more of a casual thing. It's supposed to be kind of
Yeah.
like Wednesdays are,
Mhm.
except there's no writing sprints. It's just come in. Do you have an idea? Do you need help with something? Do you want to talk about something with writing and just need to, pick somebody else's brain or whatever?
Yeah.
That's kind of what the Saturday nights are supposed to be like.
Mhm.
It's just like Wednesdays, except a little less formal, and not over YouTube, just strictly over Discord.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. I absolutely love that. And I think because Saturdays, Sundays, we don't always do writing sprint streams on the weekends because we do more of the specialty writing streams generally. I think it's so cool that there's another avenue if writers also want to be writing with us on the weekends.
Yeah.
I know
So,
last week I
your
was there by
challenge-
myself, but it was still just nice sitting there, just writing away.
so my challenge is I get out of doing these Saturday streams, and then I want to write with you, and I'm like, oh, I need to step away from the computer. You taking a break?
Sure. Excuses. Yeah.
Uh, By the way, I had an
Good.
excellent question here in the chat. Josh, what's up, Josh? Asked, when will Scarecrow be released? When will the last Scarecrow be released? It will never be released. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, Last Scarecrow is going to be released in the fall.
My question is, are you going to keep writing like right after you're done with the last Scarecrow, or
Off that.
are you just moving on to like trying to get published and all that jazz?
That's a good question. What do you guys want me to do? Do you guys want me to keep working on the second book, or should I work on something else? Maybe I'll let the community decide. That way, I'm not responsible for the continuation or non-continuation.
If it were me, I would say go ahead and continue with the second book.
Yeah.
I'll probably be really inspired to want to continue with it. Honestly, I mean, what I don't know yet, I know it's a series. What I don't know is if it's a trilogy or if it's going to be a little longer than that, like a 4 or 5 book thing, and I'm not sure. I know what the overarching story is of the entire universe and what the world is, but I mean, the heart of the story of the Last Scarecrow universe is what happens when magic destroys the universe. That's like the core premise of like, what do you do when magic destroys everything? And I don't think I've ever really gotten to explore that type of dynamic in a reading experience before.
That's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what at like the core heart of a lot of the journeys, the explorations. It all results from the how magic was created.
It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I could almost see that being kind of like a reset thing in the end, where
Mm-hmm.
once everything is done, everything just sort of reverts back to what it was before and just kind of goes like in a big cycle or something. Granted, that could also mean a never ending series, but still.
The never-ending scarecrow. So you've helped me figure out the next series, the never-ending scarecrow.
I kind of want the last novel in my series to be a bunch of short stories. Because they are in different time periods and they all attack the big bad on the same day. I just don't know what the reset would entail for that one.
You know, Lillian, that actually brings up a really interesting thought. How do you guys feel about writing? So outside of when we're working on our series, and I know we're all working on books, how do you guys feel about writing the individual stories or expanding the universe through flash fiction, short stories, and that short novella category? Are you guys
Ooh.
fans of like, okay, I've written my core story, or maybe while I'm working on the next book, I come out with a short story to give the reader something?
I think it varies. I know for myself, I am expanding it. I'm expanding Pirates a little bit
Mm-hmm.
by having a novella that takes place between the second and third book, and then having short stories which are from the perspectives of different characters from each of the books.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I'm not doing anything. I know the story I'm working on now, there's not going to be a continuation of it. It's just a simple romance story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like Animal Instincts, it has a journal that came with it that shows the origin of their world, but there's going to be nothing beyond that. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with Transfer and some of the others yet, but I think it really just is going to I think it really depends on the story you have and how deep you really want to show it off. Are you really into, hey, my story's about the characters and the plot? Or are you Tolkien, where it's like you have this massive universe?
Mm-hmm. I know, it's actually kind of funny. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know what to do for Scarecrow. It's funny. So I forgot if I was talking about it with you or if somebody asked me. They're like, if you were to do a like an extended, like a short story or some type of like character development, you should do it for Crow, outside of leading up to Scarecrow and Crow's Mr. Crow's journey.
That would be neat. That would actually be really neat.
And I should be excited. A lot of readers. It's interesting. Everybody in the community seems to either be a much more fan of either the Pixie or the Crow. My guess is going to be Team Pixie or Team Crow once I go into start thinking about marketing.
Yeah, to have t-shirts.
I'll be like,
Team
are you
Pixie.
are you a Pixie? Are you for pranking and pixies? Are you for eccentricity and crazy quotes?
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Oh man, and I'm like, wait, so readers think that Mr. Crow is hanging out there by Scarecrow on accident? Oof. I have so much fun, so much planned. So I think that's really interesting when we think about like how do we expand out the universe and the world through unrelated stories. I know what I see a lot of authors do is also do stuff for their newsletter. They'll also create do like shorts for newsletter content or to get readers into the world a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I've actually kind of considered doing that myself, is having kind of like a quasi journal from the perspective of Brennar.
That could be cool.
I have seen someone had a website where it was all, there was nothing about themselves as the author. It was all information about the world. It would be news releases. It would be things that was happening in the world or with the characters. You know, it was like, it was immersive, I guess is the word. Very immersive. Like, you just had no clue that there was an author unless you had gotten a newsletter or seen a blurb or interview, and they sent you to this website, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's I think it's interesting because I think if we're asking a new reader to read our book, that's a big ask if they don't know who we are as authors, right?
Exactly.
So then either tries a new author or they're taking a chance. But I think giving them something shorter is a lower risk ask for a new reader.
Yeah, and I think that author had started with the website, you know, like about me, my list of books, but then they had the link to the website that was so immersive. It was like after book 15 or 17 or something like that. They had so many books. Sci-fi is like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is something that I'm not always sure on. And when expanding the universe, like what direction do we take the universe in? So like if do we explore supporting characters, or is it like okay, I'm gonna go explore another plot line in the same universe?
Again, I think that's going to depend on the story.
You think so? No, I,
Yeah.
I think it depends on what do you
not
think. Sorry,
not from the readers.
I think it's just going to depend on. Do you think the readers are going to enjoy hearing more about the world itself, or do you think they're going to enjoy hearing more about the characters?
Hmm.
I know for
I
myself, I love to hear about the world more. I mean, that's why I love Avatar
Hmm.
because we don't just get to see the Ometakaya, like the frontiers of Pandora. We get to
Hmm.
see three more clans. We get to see three more
yeah.
areas that did not exist in the
Hmm.
movies, and it's like that's the kind of stuff I personally live for because
I
Hmm.
we get to
love
see
that.
more of their world, and we get to see all these neat creatures,
Hmm.
and the game is just it's awesome.
You know, like Anne
Hmm.
McCaffrey, she did that with her Pern series because she started out with the first two books. She did have a spin-off for a young adult series that had other characters, and they were exploring different parts of the world, and
Hmm.
she had novels that took place in the past, so it was very exploratory.
Hmm.
Yeah, it helped to explore the world, and that was really cool. But
Hmm.
I think whatever ideas come to you that you think are worth writing about.
Hmm. And I think that's always an interesting balance, right? It's like what do I feel is worth writing about? At the same time, what are people going to actually want to read?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if I write everything I want to write about, but then I don't take readers into account, then and I mean if I'm just writing for myself, that's one thing, right? That's different. If I'm only writing for myself, that is different. But if I am writing to build a readership, if I'm writing to sell books, if I am writing to do anything on that side of it, then I think there has to be more balance and consideration.
I think it
Yeah,
needs to be at least 80% author, 20% reader at minimum, and then
Hmm.
increase how much you write for the readers based on what they show interest in
Hmm.
and what you already have, available and stuff. So
Hmm. Which that's kind of interesting. I'm actually kind of curious. What are your guys' goals as writers?
I
Because I'm
just want
like,
to get my stories out there. I
so
write because I love to write.
yeah, you and me
I
both. Right? I write and I tell stories because I love the entire process.
don't say I wouldn't say I love the entire
I love
process.
the entire process. That's why I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo because I love the entire process of writing. That's why I'm a weirdo.
I I write because if I don't get the ideas out of my head, I would probably go insane.
I think most writers can sympathize with that.
Yeah, it's almost like you kind of have these like characters like building up in your mind, and then they just start talking to you, and you have to tell their story,
Yeah,
or else you'll just start looking like a crazy person.
and then once I started to write it, I was like, well, I really like this being able to build pictures
Hmm.
with words. That's an amazing skill, and I think I like it's entertaining to me. I'm entertained with trying to get better and improve my skill.
Hmm.
It's a real craft. I think that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, I would definitely love to hear from everyone in the chat. If you're just hopping into
Yeah.
stream or watching on the replay, what's your goal as a writer? We would love to hear from you. I'm kind of curious what everybody's goals are. And Lillian, Chat, Soul, you guys both just said like two different things, right? So Soul, you're like, I'm your goal is because you want to put your stories out there. And Lillian said your goal is to improve on the craft of writing. Uh,
Yeah.
and both two different elements. But I think that's really amazing. I think that's really incredible. And I think our goals can evolve over time as well, right? It's not like
Yeah.
Mhm.
one goal and that's your goal forever. I
I
think.
mean,
Yeah, I started out with I really wanted to write pirates,
Hmm.
and then later on it just kind of went from I want to write pirates to I like developing these characters.
Mhm.
I like seeing them not as
Yeah.
characters in a book, but as actual people
Right?
because it's interesting. And then, well, also it helps my ADHD to learn all kinds of random crap, go down like all
I
kinds of rabbit
know.
holes.
It's soothing. I
Mm.
think that once I started to delve into the craft of it,
Mhm.
I was like, maybe other people would like to read my story too, and then maybe I can get really good at the other aspects, which is, being able to get your story published or out there in some way and to have more people read it. Like, I enjoy discovering new writers or writers who are new to me. So, yeah.
I like that, and I think also being able to discover new writers, and I think that's all. There's a part of community building in there, and being able to
Yeah.
like with different styles.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't actually know that my goal as a writer was to build a writing community. I didn't even know that was a goal until it started.
I think some really just don't show up until you're actually writing and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Let's see, and I know Megan, I love your
Yeah.
like get my stories out, like telling what ifs for favorite fandoms.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to admit that's kind of the approach I took with the One Piece fan fictions I write.
Mm-hmm.
A fair amount of them actually have to do with Zoan characters, have Zoan
Mm-hmm.
devil fruits,
Mm-hmm.
and my thought process with those is, what is it like? What is it like actually being able to? It's because it's. I mean, it's obviously a kind of shapeshifter, but
Mm-hmm.
with Zoans, like the more we learn about them in the series, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what would it really be like? And so I have to. I honestly just enjoy way too much writing them.
And I feel like that's a thing that a lot of writers will do when starting the ideas of book is they'll always start with like a question or a proposition of like what if dot dot dot, and then that leads to the core of a story, right? It's like what if this thing happened, and then that leads to a whole new story and adventure.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Lynn,
mine
I love
started.
your answer. I love Lynn's answer, by the way. To make money while having fun. I can get behind that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. How many writers really make a lot of money though? Like
Right? And
overall.
I
It's
think
the dream.
that's such a goal there, though, right? And I think a lot of writers,
Yeah.
I think a lot of writers want that to be the thing, right? I
Yeah.
think they want that to be the thing. So then when they don't see the result, they get burnt out
Yeah.
because it takes a lot of time to be able to make the money, at least to even be sustainable and do it as a full-time career.
I've actually met some people that this isn't just writing. This is just kind of like in general. They're in their specific areas because they want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I see that, I'm just sitting there like, you're gonna burn yourself out. You're not gonna be happy with this in the long run. What are you doing?
Do you think writers start off with a lot of unrealistic goals when like starting their writing journey?
I think so. Whether they realize it or not, I think there's at least some unrealistic goals,
Mm-hmm.
even if they aren't aware of them, or at least aware of how unrealistic they really are.
Mm-hmm. What do we think is like some of the most unrealistic goals that writers set for themselves when they first like start their like writing journey?
I'm gonna have 1,000 readers in like half a year.
Mm.
I've actually seen that quite often.
I said I was going to have 1 million readers in half a year, and there is truth to that. The problem is they're just all imaginary and they're all in my head.
No, we're not going to include imaginary with this.
Oh,
Not this
I have
time.
Crow and all of his friends, and I have the whole menagerie of animals that I'm putting out there, and got some dragons, and
Oh,
Yeah. I think one of the biggest misnomers and one of the things that I see writers feel unrealistic about is I don't know if it's the amount of time that it takes. I think most people understand it takes a lot of time to write a book. I think everyone's agreed on that. I think what I see as the thing that's really not thought about is the amount of time it takes per draft to get the book from beginning to end. And I think writers know, like, yeah, it takes a lot of time to write a book, yes, but each draft is almost its own step along the journey. And writers think, like, okay, well, write the book. They know it probably needs to be edited, and then it will be ready. But it's a process, and I think understanding the process helps to better get somebody through the journey without losing that motivation, right? Because I think there's a difference between a rough draft and an edited draft or a final draft or a proofread draft. And I think there's just different stages, and not every story follows the same drafting stage. And I think that's a challenge, right? That there's so much open endedness to what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people who approach writing like they will look for magazines or websites and what do they want for a story, and then they will write for that site to get published. It's like they're turning out ideas so they can get published, and I'm not at that level. I don't, or maybe it's not level, but I have the ideas that come to me. I can't really, like, for Faded Fantasy, I already had a story mostly written, and
Okay.
so I was able to, like, add to it to make it
Yeah, and
fit
then
the
format so it
context.
fits like the prompt and what you're trying to.
Yeah, and I'm not someone who can just,
Lillian, I'm sure you're not
yeah,
alone. I'm sure there are a number of writers in the community who already had stories and like they probably knew what they wanted to write by the time that we had launched.
right?
Like I know a lot of
Yeah,
because we've been talking about Fade Fantasy since December, so people knew that.
right.
What's
So,
that? January, February, March, April. So what? People had about three and a
About
half.
3.5, 4 months, people
Yeah,
had
to think about it.
to think about everything.
And I promise you, there's probably a couple people in the community who are already thinking about what the Freaky Friday story is going to be because I've already been clear. Everybody knows Freaky Friday will be back. Like I've been very forthcoming about that. Well, we'll see if I can summon Jezebel. That's the question mark. We gotta deal with Crow first and see how this goes.
oh my gosh. I actually went back and watched those videos for Freaky Friday. Really impressive, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, this is super exciting. By the way, WTC, welcome, my friend. Glad to see you here in the chat. Let's see. Huge congratulations. WTC Book 2 released today. Huge congrats, my friend. Anytime we can release our book and anytime anybody in our community releases a book, that is so exciting. You definitely deserve a huge round of applause. It's a lot of work, especially releasing the second book of the series. Like, good for you, my friend. I highly recommend it. It's really good, really fun read. Echoes of Defiance. That's super cool that you're releasing it today. Echoes of Defiance, part of the Echoes of
Yay.
Ice series, I believe. So highly recommend. It's like fun, like fantasy adventure. I think it goes under the isekai harem genre. I think that's the exact category. Definitely super spicy. So definitely a lot of fun elements to it, but would highly recommend. Hopefully your book launch goes well, my friend. Good luck with it. Definitely good luck. Can we see it's a month later than originally planned, but glad I can get it released. Yeah, the Legacy of Echoes series. Yeah, definitely go check it out.
I will
Yeah,
go look it
I
up.
believe WTC. I believe if you want to drop your pen name in the chat so people can go find it.
Yep.
And you should also WTC make sure to go drop it in the Discord as well. Make sure to drop the link in the Discord as well. So anybody who wants to go check out the link. I know we have a specific channel for
Oh my gosh,
book launches.
I found
that's
one.
an amazing pen name.
Jackson Arkemore. I
Yeah.
agree. Jackson Arkemore is a badass pen name. Oh man, yeah, that's super cool. Man, I'm curious. Did you guys release your books? Did you launch them when you meant to? Like, so did you launch your book when you were planning on launching it, or did it get pushed off?
Technically, since it took me almost 20 years to write, no. But no, once I actually started writing it, it took a little bit to figure out exactly when I wanted to publish it, but I was able to do that. And the second book was even better because I'm kind of going with a theme with it. It's publishing a year and a week later to the dates of the first, and the third one's going to be similar. So that one, yeah, so far I've been able to publish that one so far on the schedule that I wanted for it.
I think I'm on my third goal. My first goal was January 1st, and that was definitely not right. And then that was way off. January 1st off from my original goal.
What year?
And then my second goal was by the end of spring, which would really be end of May. And not ready yet. So then my third goal is the fall. I think I feel good that I can get it out by fall. I feel like my consistency will pick up once I get through the second half of the book.
Do you have like a specific date in mind?
What was that, Lillian? You said, do I have a specific date?
Yeah.
I haven't set a date yet. I think I don't set a date so that way I don't set myself up for disappointment. I also kind of have a whole strategy that I want to do with Scarecrow. But I feel like for me to start even setting dates, I have to be at a certain point in the drafting process. Because I know that once I take it through this draft, third draft is going to take me 2 weeks because I'm going to read that aloud to myself and make fixes. And then I need to give it to an editor. An editor will take a month. And then we'll go from there. But I mean, I feel overall strong about the story. I just have to figure out where I'm going to cut 30,000 words. That's pretty easy, right? How do I cut 30,000 words from a story?
I only have to cut 13.
You got me beat. Got me beat. I was like, where'd I cut 30,000? And granted, we know editing will cut out words regardless. Editors will always cut down on words, and that's that will happen.
I actually didn't. My first draft was actually really bare. The second draft actually added more.
Well, I think and I think when it's edited by other people, and I think it's more that because I think if we're self-editing, that's a little different.
What's that?
Because I could say that even my second draft, I was going to revise and edit it myself, and I just keep adding words. I think I ended the first draft at 140K, and now I'm getting closer to 155, 160. Oh god, this is not helping.
What's wrong with that?
I'm supposed to go down, not up.
Yeah, I gotta agree with WTC. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of did that too. I cut out a few things from the first from the second or third draft, and I just added a few more because hey, these scenes needed to be cut, and then holy crap, it actually opens up this other scene needs to happen because it's important. It's I can't cut this one. Oh,
yeah, but everything that I've added in this draft has been so good. I know it's been good, and it was the right decision, but still helping.
So how do you find the editor that you want?
How do you find a book editor? Well, I'm glad you asked, Lillian. So there's a number of ways to find book editors. And of course, I won't not put out there that I am a book editor. But aside from that, but actually, everybody in the community already knows that. Like, what I usually recommend for most writers, if you want to go find a book editor, first off, you have to understand what your budget is because editing is expensive. And here's why: the reason editing is expensive is because it's extremely time consuming.
Yes.
I will give, and I'm going to give people, I'm going to give everyone here a really good idea. So let's say that I was going to edit a 50,000 word novel. Um, and skill level is such a factor. So let's say that it's a writer who's been writing for 2 to 3 years. They probably have like some understanding of like sentence structure and skill and style and their story, but they're probably going to make a lot more mistakes with like punctuation and grammar, and the style might not be as strong. So that could take me up to, for 50,000 words, anywhere between 30 to 60 hours to edit that, depending on what type of edit. Line editing is its own different style. Developmental editing, where you're fixing the story. Whereas if it is a more like experienced writer, editing that same word count could take me 20 to 30 hours because I don't have to go take extra time working through sentence structure and fragments and grammar and those other things that make it more challenging for me to be able to edit and provide the feedback or fix the things.
Yeah.
And like that's
That's kind of what I do is
like
developmental
that's
editing.
expensive, right? Because
Yeah.
like it takes time. But like what are you gonna do, right? So Lillian asked a great question. How do you find an editor? I think first off, know what your budget is. Um, and I think you can find editors really cheap on gig websites. Like you can go on
Fiverr.
or you can find cheap editors. But I think the challenge is sometimes low. If you're paying less, then you're going to get lower quality. Sometimes it's not always the case. I think the best way to determine is once you know your budget, work with, if you find editors that seem interesting, if you see they should have some type of online profile, then ask them. Most editors will do a sample edit. Most editors should do a sample edit so that way you can see what type of editing you can anticipate. And then also, outside of that, you should clarify timelines. You should clarify how much it's going to cost. You should clarify how long it should take on a draft by draft level. A lot of editors will double up different types of edits. Like a lot of editors will do like a developmental edit and like a proofread, or so on and so forth. Save writing because each time you read through a manuscript, it costs. So, and I think that's why editing is so can such a process. Now, granted, this I'm only speaking more to like self-publishy indie editing world where you're looking for editors who are more freelance in nature. If you guys go to look for an editor or for an editor for like a traditional publishing company, their editors are generally more like project managers, which is really interesting. An editor for a traditional publishing house is more going to be working with you and helping you bring the book to life, because editors are categorized differently in traditional publishing.
I have worked as a line editor before,
Mm-hmm.
and it is time consuming.
It is.
But
And I mean, not every story needs every type of edit. That's the
no,
thing. Writers are like, oh, it needs so many things. No.
no,
One writer's story might only need a developmental edit, which is fixing the characters, the plot, the world building, do the things make sense. One writer might not need a developmental edit because they understand story structure and their own craft. Whereas another writer might need a line edit, right? Which is just, I'm going to look at each sentence and I
yep,
have to make sure the sentence actually sounds good. I have to add style. I have to make sure that it goes into grammar and grammar into search and example.
punctuation too.
Hmm. And then a proofread.
Punctuation also.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I can get into editing all day, every day. But I think the thing to be aware of is really try to figure out like what it is that your story needs. And if you're like, hey, I'm kind of newer to figuring this out, I don't know how to tell what my story needs. Alpha and beta readers, that's where you start.
Yes.
Alpha and beta readers. If you have money, pay for a low cost alpha beta reader. Go look at what the market value is and then based off the market value off of research. If you don't have the budget to pay for alpha or beta readers, go find other writers in your same position and trade for free exchanges.
Yeah.
Um,
And book coaches,
mhm.
they help too.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. Because I think sometimes writers don't always take into consideration how much help it can be being able to talk through
Yes.
different story elements or different or like the outline or like, hey, I need you to look at this page and tell me like, does it actually make sense? And I think there's a lot of value to that sometimes writers will underlook. And imagine if you're working through a book and somebody's working with you on being able to fix the story problems early on, you're going to spend less money in the long term on editing because those story problems will already.
Exactly. Like for
Mhm,
me, I have the full outline of my book, but I
mhm,
know that there are, some sections there's something wrong with it. Other
mhm,
sections, I'm like, there's something missing. What do I need to put in here? And so, book coaching is really helpful
mhm.
in the beginning process. So I find that really has been a big boost for me.
And I think something that a lot of writers forget as well is that they don't have to take all of the advice that they get from everybody, from
Yep.
feedback, editing, from coaching, from like just everything in general. I feel like sometimes writers trap themselves into the mindset of like, okay,
Yeah.
if I'm paying for something, I need to take it all. But at the end of the day, the writer is the creative, the one bringing the story to life. They have to trust they have to understand what is my goal, what is my vision,
Mm-hmm.
what is the story I want to tell, and then you balance each piece of feedback against what your core story is.
I really liked the video we
Mhm,
had earlier about the bonsai editing
mhm,
and discovering the structure of your
mhm,
story. And if you're bored with a character, maybe you're not meant to tell their story. Maybe
mhm,
there's a different character in the story.
mhm.
I really like that approach. It's very
And for anybody who doesn't know what Lillian's mentioning, this past Sunday, yeah, that was this past Sunday. So this past Sunday, the podcast, the Create Right Now podcast, I brought on an author, Katie Silverwings, and she has this unique editing technique called bonsai pruning editing. And a lot of it is reframing the mindset around how to make editing an easier experience for you. It was a really interesting strategy. And I actually learned a couple of things on like, okay, how do I reframe the mindset around editing if I felt like I was struggling as a writer and trying to edit my own stuff? So it's definitely a good watch. Anybody in the
yeah.
community who struggles with like self editing should definitely go check the video out. It's
Oh
linked down in
yeah.
the description down below.
It was so helpful.
WTC, that's actually really interesting. You said Rachel, you guys stepped up and started a publishing company. It's actually super cool.
Ooh.
I also stepped up and created a publishing company, Arcane Realms Press. Very cool. Very, very cool, my friend. And then I imagine you guys probably self-pub or you publish the books through your publishing company. That's super cool.
I kind of did something similar, mainly because how Draft Two Digital does things.
Mm-hmm.
But like mine is a Hollow Books,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of it's self published, but it's published through that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if Right Now will ever be a publishing company. I don't know if that's the right direction for it or not. But we will have the anthologies that are published through Right Now. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be published Right Now as a publishing company. I think Right Now is always about the art of writing and bringing writers together.
yeah,
Right. So I think being able to publish the anthologies, right? The books. I think that's just like a part of publishing it for and by the community.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But you know what? That's a really good. I feel like this is a really good conversation, and of course, talking about publishing is a whole nother road and a whole nother avenue. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of everything though on my mind tonight. I think that's everything that I kind of that I'm thinking through writing wise. So, do you have kind of any or Lillian? Do you guys have any like final like writing thoughts that come to you guys before we wrap up?
Not really.
Oh, we covered so much.
Awesome. WTC, that's really cool. Once we figure out what we are doing, then we may expand out to accept other authors. But definitely,
Ooh.
my friend, definitely once I always love trying to give more opportunities and networking with
Yeah,
others in the community. So
it's pretty awesome.
awesome. Well, I feel like today we actually got into some good conversations, and we definitely got a little bit of a different vibe with DJ Chat Soul in the house.
That was
So
great.
yeah, so everyone, thank you for joining us today for meeting 44. Lillian, as always, it's a pleasure to have you back and joining us. So we're in this till meeting 100. We're all in this together. All right, my friends. It's been great and it's been fun. I will be back tomorrow for another daily writing sprint stream. Tomorrow is Thursday. Yep. Tomorrow we are at. We're a little earlier tomorrow. Yeah, so I'm at writing stream tomorrow is 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. And we're leading up the sprint stream right before the AuthorTube writing conference announcement. For anyone who doesn't know, I've been asked to host the AuthorTube writing conference. So it's a huge
Neat.
thing. It's a huge thing. Like there's like some really big names involved. There's like this is every year they've done it. Like last year, I think they had over 50 different YouTubers presenting, and there's some really big names attached. So tomorrow's another announcement stream. Super looking forward to that, and I'll be doing that after our the writing sprint stream. So everyone, come check out. It'd be cool.
Yes.
The summer, all about writing. All right, my friends. And anybody who needs feedback, make sure to submit to the critique show. Next episode Saturday. I always have to throw that out there for anybody who has not yet submitted. Episode 43 of the Story and Critique Show is this Saturday. So hopefully we'll get some more good stories in. And that is everything that I got for you. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Kaufman, and this is
Chat Soul.
and this is,
Lillian.
and we'll catch you on the next stream. Take care, writers.
Bye.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now,
Right now.
Right now.
because it's time